Yes.
Have the Diversion Authority to order. Begin with the roll.
Mr. Vano.
Here.
Mrs. Sherling. Here. Mr. Pollock.
Here.
Dr. Mahoney.
Here.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Here.
Mr. Grinberg.
Here.
Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Whalen.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Otto. Mr. Hendrickson.
Here.
Mr. Thorsted.
Here.
Mr. Olson.
You have the minutes from last meeting before you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are carried. The order of agenda, any changes? Not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? With the new arrangement here, I do want to draw to your attention, I like it from the standpoint that I can see out to the audience. It does make it a little bit more difficult to see you, so don't be afraid to speak up. We have talked about maybe pulling the wings in a little bit, that way then the chair would be able to see. So maybe in the future we'll get that little tweak to it, but
So we can make faces now.
oh, yeah, there you go. Only the audience will see you. So anyway, bear with us on that. We'll begin with the report. Randy, are you handling that?
Yes, sir. Just a little AV issue here, but we got it straightened out. Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If in your packet in item 4A, I'd like to go over just a snapshot of our baseline presentation first. This is not going to be on the screen, but I passed out. You have two items in your packet. One is a summary budget and a summary schedule, and then separately passed out was a separate sheet that is sort of a cheat sheet to tell you what these different funding categories are. So this is the separate sheet that was passed out. It has 4A up in the top left corner. And then again, a budget summary and a summary schedule. So this is kind of unveiling our baseline reporting routine to you. And we went over this in a bit of detail with the Finance Committee yesterday. It's a work in progress, but the idea is to show you in one sheet what the program's budget looks like in 2015 dollars. So again, it's item 4A in your packet. And then accompanying that is a one-sheet summary of the program schedule. So again, this is how we will report progress to you as we begin our work on the program, both in terms of amounts expended and are we ahead or behind schedule. So this baseline is dated as of yesterday, which means we are exactly on schedule and exactly on budget as of the baseline that was created yesterday. As we go through and progress through time, we will report on how we are varying away from the baseline, if we are. If we're behind schedule, if we're ahead, if we're spending more money than we thought we would, or so forth. So I wanted to present this again to the full board today. The Finance Committee saw it yesterday, had some comments. We'll provide more detail, some more metrics to give you just a good summarized picture of where the program stands month to month. So I wanted to introduce that before we begin anything else, and any comments or questions you might have on that. And again, we're looking for input on presentation, on the degree of detail, and so forth, so that this reflects what you'd like to hear at a board meeting every month.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Maybe
go ahead,
Randy,
Tony.
you could comment on the additional information on that schedule that was talked about yesterday with percent of budget and
That's right. So what we've shown on the schedule right now, if you see the items that have begun work, on the far right side of those bars, you'll see numbers highlighted in yellow. And that's an estimated percent complete of those items that we've begun work on. So for example, for phase 1 land acquisition, we're estimating that we're about 11% complete with that right now. So that number will change every month. And as other work items begin, we'll begin to report on their progress also. in terms of percent complete. All right. I'm going to proceed then with the PMC report. Just a couple of highlights for the month of August. Phase 8 modeling results were substantially completed in August. So this is, again, another look at the hydraulics and hydrologic model that affects our program, how much water we get under certain events and how it flows and so forth. This update to the model informs us now on the areas that are flooded under different circumstances, and it helps us also begin to determine the size of the mitigation area in the upstream area, upstream of the southern embankment. So pretty big milestone on the engineering side that we have this. This model is not planned on being updated anytime in the future. So the results of that model will be the standard from which we determine particularly how to negotiate with property holders in the upstream embankment area for the mitigation of the flow easements. Lieutenant General Simonite visited us on the 23rd of August. Excitement then and excitement now from that visit. We've obviously, he has brought a lot of energy to the program, and some of that is getting a reaction from across the river in Minnesota, and we'll see how that goes in the next few days. And then finally, I wanted to highlight that the Corps has received responses to their RFP on the first bit of their construction work, and that's the inlet structure. So they got their responses. They actually received those on the 1st of September, and they'll be making the results of those responses public in the next couple of days. Our priority areas for September, the RFQ responses for the P3 contract are due on the 14th. So we're expecting to get anywhere from 6 to 8 responses to those consortia that are interested in competing for the P3 contract. We've already got the evaluation team in place. In fact, I believe they had a meeting earlier today, and so we'll begin evaluating those RFQ responses on the 14th. The RFP and contract for the P3 consortia continue to be drafted. We'll be working on those continuously through the month of September. We are scheduled to respond tomorrow to the Minnesota DNR's comments on our permit application. We continue to develop the language on the flowage easements, and as I mentioned on the Phase 8 modeling, continuing to determine which properties need flowage easements. Working very hard on Phase 1 land acquisition. And when I talk about Phase 1, I'm talking about the northernmost reach of the diversion channel. There are about 91 parcels there that we need to acquire before the P3 contractor gets on board, so that land acquisition is certainly in our sights. And then the in-town levee construction continues, and I'm going to have Ty Smith come up and give you some more details on that ongoing work. So, Ty, do you want to start this?
Good afternoon. We stumbled across something really cool that I'd like to invite the board to watch on the screen behind us. And I wish that I had the wherewithal to have said that I did this, but I don't. But this actually is a drone flight that was piloted and recorded by the nephew of the president for one of the contractors working on the 2nd Street projects. So what this is, the drone just took off from, this is 2nd Street, this is 2nd Street North. They took off from about 2nd Street and 6th Avenue or so. This is the railroad bridge, and they're going to be flying south along the entire project footprint. Now this video actually incorporates 4 separate contracts. One is the pump station that I'll point out in a second. One is the flood wall on the north side of the pump station, this is the beginning of it here, as well as the demolition of the Hojo, which is up somewhere I can't really see in this area, as well as the retaining wall and the Fargo Public Schools renovation there. And this happens to have been flown on a day with a whole lot of activity. You can see all the trucks driving around, and the drone actually has to dodge to avoid the crane right now. This was taken about a month ago. There is another one that I just saw this morning, also flown by a relation of industrial builders, that is a little more choppy. I didn't want to show it today in case anybody would get seasick, but it does show quite a bit more progress. This is the new pump station that's now in operation. The final screen wall, you can see that going in right there. And then this, of course, is the realigned 2nd Street, partially done. And then now this is the flood wall south of the pump station, which is its own project. Everything over to the left side here is going to be new green space. And then, of course, everything on the dry side of the flood wall is the road and the utility installation, et cetera. And then now what we're going into, this is Case Plaza right here. So this is the infamous Case Plaza parking lot. And you can see that I think this is the very end of the flood wall there. I'll report on its status in a moment, but this is after all of that contaminated soil removal that we had been expecting. And this, while I find it really cool, because bird's eye view is always great, I've shown this to a number of people, and people who aren't around construction day to day have all expressed that they really liked seeing that because they get to see stuff that they don't see, that the rest of us sometimes take for granted. So I hope you enjoyed that video.
That's nice.
Thanks for setting that up, Tim. As far as progress goes for the in-town levies projects, for the month of September, project A1A3, which is the 4th Street pump station. That pump station was successfully tested last month. We worked through the stilling well issue that we had talked about last board meeting, and the connection to the storm system is finished. At the time that we wrote up the bullet, it wasn't quite done, but this morning the contractor reported that the deluge that we got here in town last night, the pump station successfully managed that flow, and all 4 pumps were in operation, and now we're in the process of validating, making sure everyone understands exactly what's going on with those pumps. The contractor is proceeding with the remaining work, which is demolition of the existing pump stations, demolition of the pipes that are going through the existing levee, reconstruction of the levee, installation of the generator and generator building. This project will be lasting into next year, but good news is the pump station is online now. 2nd Street pump station, project A2, which was in the video that we saw a second ago, that pump station has been operating since July, as we discussed previously. The screen wall, which is what you see in the photo there, that's actually been complete for a week or two now. And all that remains in that project is installation of the fence modification, some bollards, and then we're preparing for final inspection and closeout on that project. F1S, in the photo here, what you see is the completed monuments that are part of the project. Just kind of a neat thing to see other than flood wall, which everyone's really used to seeing. The last of the flood wall will be finished this month. That's in that Case Plaza area that we just looked at in the video. The 2nd Street realignment itself is approximately 90% complete, and we do expect to reach substantial completion of the project as planned this construction season. F1N, which is the flood wall north of the pump station. The retaining wall footings are done and the walls are underway. That's at the area where the Fargo Public Schools warehouse was demolished and then the side of that building was renovated. The contractor will be beginning the construction of 2nd Street north of the pump station this next week. The underground utilities will be completed this month. There has been a delay related to review of project elements by the railroad company. This was somewhat anticipated. Interacting with the railroad is never a fast thing. And there is a change order that I'll be discussing shortly that adds 34 days to the project schedule as a result of the railroad delay. It's a big deal. 34 days is a lot of days, but we do expect that all the critical work will be done this construction season. What will now slide to next year will be things like painting and striping, some of the final grading and seeding and stuff like that. But we are currently working with the contractor to ensure that the priority work does in fact get done this year, and the priority is getting Second Street open. The Elzegel Phase 2 levee, work package 42H2, backfilling the flood wall and completing the sidewalk and other pavements. There's a small portion of levee remaining, which is that which is east of Elm Street. There's a very small piece of levee between the new flood wall and the existing levee, and the contractor is awaiting delivery of the removable flood wall materials, the stop logs that will go across and connect the flood wall on both sides of Elm Street. Work package 42I-1 is the Michelson levee extension. This project is, for all intents and purposes, complete. The levee is finished. The contractor is in the process of final grading, topsoil, seeding, et cetera. And we're a little bit ahead of schedule on this one and now beginning to prepare for final inspection and project closeout. And then finally today is work package 42F2, which is the levee installation on the former Park East apartment site. The contractor has installed storm pipe and structures, storm structures in Second Street. Paving and lighting restoration is underway. Unfortunately, this contractor is a little bit behind schedule. The requirement had been to open Second Street, that portion of Second Street, on September 1st, and they currently are on track to open that on September 16th. Other than that, the quality of work is high, and then after they finish the street, they'll be turning to the levee itself that's on the Park East apartment site. That is it for construction, unless there are any questions. Yes, ma'am.
I assume Maine is gonna get closed somewhere along the line. You can tell the pipes are here and they're here, and somewhere along the line, they're gonna make that decision. Do you know when that's gonna happen?
I don't, that's not a diversion-related project. Maybe someone from the city could answer that
Okay.
question. I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
2018.
2018, okay.
What?
So Maine will be closed in 2018. So that, what you're referring to there is at the underpass? All the
Well-
pipes laid out there?
Yeah, so you're gonna have the pipes laid out for a whole nother year.
So I think
I don't know if
that,
the second gets done then.
that work is taking place from Maine back north, right? So Maine will never close this year? Okay.
But just, I think what you want to know is in Center Avenue and our other two bridges will be open, right?
What's that?
Our other two bridges will be open during that time.
Well, in 2018, but if you drive down Main from Moorhead, you can see that there's pipes on this side, pipes on this side on Second. And
Oh, okay.
and to me,
So
there's a presumption somewhere along the line, they're going to want to connect them, I
I-
assume.
I understand, I didn't have a visual, so as you're driving from Moorhead and you look on the left, that's project F2, which I had just showed.
Right, and on
And
the right,
that project
on
doesn't,
Second
it
is-
doesn't cross Maine.
It doesn't.
It does
So
not.
there's pipes that are just sitting there. I'm just assuming they're going to, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, now I understand, I'm sorry. I would have thought the same thing, that they connect. It happens that they don't.
Okay.
So, and then the pipes on the right are a city project, and I don't know the details on that.
Nancy, go ahead.
And when is First Avenue Bridge going to be scheduled to be officially reopened?
By the end of October.
Okay.
Oh,
That'll be a big
so you
day
moved
for,
it.
for us.
Last
I-
time we met, it was October 1st.
Okay, I'm sorry, I need to check that.
Okay.
Yep, verify. October 1st? Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's October 1st.
Oh, good.
It
Thank
appears
you.
Moorhead's concerned about that.
Moorhead is
Well-
concerned about that.
Yum comes to like to be able to be accessible. It's a pain in the butt to get to. Yeah.
And North Moorhead residents would like a little more access.
Yeah.
Just an FYI.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler. The video was kind of cool. Anything else, Randy?
Yeah, Terry's not here today.
Yeah.
Again, she just wanted me to pass on the information about the RFP responses, so.
Okay. Very good. John?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the Diversion Authority Commission. Within your packet, you have a proposed contract with Aon Risk Advisor Services. The board may recall a number of months ago authorizing the issuance of a RFP for risk advisory services. There was a number of submissions given, and Aon Risk Services Central Incorporated was recommended as the preferred provider. The services that they will be providing are outlined in the agreement under Section 2. In a nutshell, they will be providing advice regarding insurance projects for the project as a whole, for the Diversion Authority as an entity, and most importantly, insurance products and risk allocation as between the Diversion Authority and the P3 contractor for the P3 element of the project. There are many different types of insurance products that are available, both relating to third-party liability, the builder's risk during construction, and overall risk of the project during the construction cycle. Aon would be providing those types of advisory services to the P3 working group and to the Diversion Authority as a whole. They are also researching some other topics of interest in regards to proposed crop cash flow reimbursements if the project ever operated during the summer, and also some other contingency types of insurance products. The ultimate decision whether to purchase those insurance products would rest with the Diversion Authority. They're simply an advisor providing advice with regard to what types of insurance products to select. Yesterday, the Finance Committee met, approved the contract with a slight adjustment, and that adjustment was in regards to the maximum amount of reimbursement that they could receive under Section 8.2. Under Section 8.2, the contract that is in your packet provides that they would be reimbursed for meals associated with travel at the actual cost, but an amount not to exceed $100 per person. The Finance Committee recommended that that be changed to match the maximum that's allowed under the IRS code, which is a high-low amount. So if you're in a higher value community like Chicago, you would pay the higher rate, the maximum amount. Or if you're in a community like Fargo, the rate would be lower. And I think the approximate amounts would be $65 per day in a higher value community and about $55 a day in a lower value community. I spoke with Aon in the last 24 hours. They are agreeable to that change. And so with that change, you would need a motion and a second and a vote to approve the contract with that change.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? If not, we'll take the roll.
Mr. Vaniel.
Yes?
Mrs. Sherling.
Yes.
Mr. Pollock.
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn.
Aye.
Mr. Grinberg.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Whalen.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Otto.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Thorsted. Mr. Olson.
Yes.
And Mr. Chair, just some brief updates regarding actions that have been occurring among the legal teams over the last 2 weeks since your last meeting. The finance team has been working on the temporary financing, and I'm pleased to tell you that it is scheduled to close tomorrow. We had a pre-close call this morning. Everything is in order, and we anticipate closing tomorrow without any issues. The P3 team has been working diligently on the project agreement and support of the RFP, along with support of development of the procedures and policies in response to the receipt of the SOQs. Also, some other housekeeping items. The executive team is going to be working on a policy and some procedures that are consistent with the Joint Powers Agreement in relation to the role of the executive director. It is anticipated that they will be bringing that forward to the Diversion Authority Board in October. Also, I am drafting a resolution consistent with Section 12.05 of the Joint Powers Agreement that discusses how we as an organization will deal with construction contracts, change orders, and purchasing in general. The Joint Powers Agreement provided the authority for this board to pass a resolution that would specify those procedures and sort of flesh out how we do business. So it's very consistent, and there's a format moving forward with contracts. I would note that would be for contracts that are outside of the P3. The P3 would be a single contract under one procurement. This would be in relation to the smaller contracts that you've been seeing over the last couple of months related to different projects. And I can certainly answer any questions that you might have.
No questions? Thank you, John. Contracting actions? Tyler?
There are 3 construction change orders for today. The first is for A1A3, which is the 4th Street Pump Station project, and for $70,000 and change. $60,000 of this is for unforeseen site conditions for asbestos removal. I mentioned a minute ago about the existing stormwater pipes that need to be removed. I'm sorry, the stormwater pipes from the existing lift stations that need to be removed. These are 78-inch corrugated metal pipes that were not known to have been coated in asbestos at the time of bid and award. And recently, we did test those pipes and discover that they are coated with an asbestos-containing material. The $60,000 is a budget for removal or for the extra handling associated with the asbestos on those pipes that the contractor will bill against that budget on a time and materials basis. So we'll validate what those costs are through inspection in the field, and the contractor will only be paid for what they use, and any of that budget that is left will be de-obligated from the project at the end. The remaining portion of that, for $10,000 and change, is for a connection to provide a manual emergency overflow from the existing sanitary sewer to the new storm sewer. Environmental requirements changed after design and award of the project that mean that the existing passive overflow or non-human intervention overflow cannot remain, and that is driven by the North Dakota Department of Health. So the $10,300 is associated with the contractor installing the materials necessary to provide the city with the emergency manual overflow connection that they need. The next change order is for work package 41F1S.
Tyler, a question, that $10,000 item, that's the one that you and I
That's
exchanged emails on?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Work package 42F1S, south of the pump station flood wall, and this is for differing subsurface conditions. This is a continuation of the debris and unsuitable fill material that the contractors encountered, which was known but could not be quantified prior to the project. And so these are T&M costs. The contractor is only being paid for what we've been able to confirm and validate. There is a little bit of cost, $2,200 or $2,300, I don't have the details in front of me at the moment, associated with installation of water main by pipe bursting. The contractor was supposed to remove and install water main traditionally with an open trench and gravel backfill, and an existing duct bank for CenturyLink that was not known to be there ended up conflicting with how the contractor could do that work. So the decision between the city and the engineer was to do this through pipe bursting, which doesn't actually require excavation. There was a deduct of a certain amount for the work that will not be done with traditional excavation and gravel backfill, small increase for the work that will be done through the pipe bursting, and the net result is an increase of a little over $2,000. So the total for this project change order is $77,600 and change. And then finally, work package 42F1N, north of the pump station. This is the majority of this cost. $200,000 of this proposed $206,000 is to establish another time and materials budget for removal of unsuitable materials. So again, we'll validate all the costs, contractor only gets paid for what they use, and anything that's not spent by the end of the project will be de-obligated in a closeout change order. And then there are a couple of smaller costs associated with providing temporary water to area businesses, and removal of foundation that had to be left at the Hojo site, because removal under the demo project would have threatened an existing sanitary sewer pipe. And then also the 34 days associated with the BNSF review delay as part of this change order as well.
Any questions for Tyler? If not, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Not, we'll take the roll.
Mr. Vano,
Yes.
Mrs. Schirling,
Yes.
Mr. Pollak,
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney,
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn, Mr. Pepcorn,
Aye.
Mr. Grinberg,
Aye.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Whalen,
Yes.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Otto,
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson,
Yes.
Mr. Thorsted, Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.
Okay, and then, let's see. Yeah,
Roger's here.
Roger, public outreach?
In your packet, you'll find the Public Outreach Committee report, one page with 2 sides. Sales tax education. The outreach team has been gathering input from the public on what education related to paying for the project is needed. Since Fargo and Cass County approved asking voters to whether to extend the existing flood protection sales tax in November. FMDiversion.com now hosts a frequently asked questions page about the sales tax vote and a financial plan for the diversion project. A short educational video, which the outreach team viewed yesterday, relates to the project finances and has been created and will be available for distribution soon. It's a great video, gives some really nice information about the project. Additional coordination is also taking place with members of the Business Leaders Flood Task Force who have been requesting additional information on the project related to the sales tax vote in November. The Corps Chief visit. Commanding General of the U.S. Army of Engineers, Lieutenant General Todd Semonite, was in town in late August on a fact-finding tour of the diversion project. As part of that visit, he met with local sponsors and also congressional offices, which included Senator Hoeven and Representative Peterson. Following the General's visit and hearing from local stakeholders, the Corps reached out to the Minnesota DNR and Governor Dayton's offices to request meetings. A meeting was held with DNR Commissioner Landwehr and Colonel Hawkins on August 29th. Coming up in the next few months, township meetings are being requested of the townships which will be affected by the route of the diversion project to discuss next steps for the project related to land acquisition and provide a general update on topics of interest. A meeting has been scheduled for September 13th with Stanley Township, and others are expected to be scheduled this fall. Community outreach. Chairman Vano provided a project update for the Red River Basin Commission Board of Directors at the September meeting. Eric Dodds and Rocky Snyder will be presenting about the diversion project at the North Dakota Planning Association Conference next week in Bismarck. The diversion project will be highlighted at a booth at the Minnesota Water Resource Conference next month in St. Paul. And the outreach team regularly presents to local civic groups and has one presentation scheduled for later this month. In an effort to keep these groups updated on the large milestones taking place this fall, the outreach team has reached out to numerous groups that we have presented previously and are asking them if they would like an update. With the upcoming election in November, the outreach team will be meeting with candidates in North Dakota and Minnesota to provide education about the diversion project. And finally, the North Dakota Education Foundation is returning to Fargo on September 21st to learn more about flood protection efforts in the area, and a bus tour of the flood efforts in Fargo and Cass County is planned as part of that event. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Tom, update?
Thank you, Chairman. The Flood Task Force has been busy. We had a meeting of our entire group today, and we're working on a strategy and a campaign for the upcoming sales tax vote 2 months from today. So in the next few weeks, you should be seeing some of the results of that.
Okay, thank you. Finance Committee report. Tony, are you going to handle that?
I'm going to ask Randy to do 9B
Okay.
and 9C.
Okay, sure.
Actually, Mike, you want to, yeah, go ahead and start with this.
Okay, this is our finance report. Shows that, if I had my glasses on, I could see it. We've taken in $312 million and we spent $241. This is a real change from previous reports in that normally our dollars balanced pretty much, but the county has deposited a lot of their funds over at the city of Fargo, and then Fargo also has some funds in there along with some state funds that are actually starting to build us a cash balance. So. And we have a balance sheet now that shows how much cash we have. We have $64 million in cash, some receivables from the State Water Commission, and then some receivables yet from Oxbow lot sales. As John mentioned, there's a series of transactions going on tomorrow, and our $100 million of loans with U.S. Bank will be paid. The county will draw an additional $50 million from Wells Fargo, along with the city drawing $250,000, and so this cash amount will go up rather dramatically tomorrow. However, later this month we'll be making the core payment, so that'll go back down. And I think, Randy, were you going to cover the?
Thank you.
Mike, could you just mention what amount that core payment is, please?
We assume it's about $45 million. We haven't been given the final dollar amount. We told we'd get 5 days' notice,
Thank you.
but we'll have the funds available.
Do you want to cover bills now? That's up to you. Okay. See if I can get down to my, oops, no. Okay, sorry. If I could draw your attention to item 9 in your packets, please. Item 9C should be substituted by this individual handout. This is an update for August numbers, and this is just a snapshot of where we are in the fiscal year 2016 budget. So what we're showing there is that as of the end of August, we've got approximately $88 million left in the budget. If you go back to item 9B, that is...
Eight, Andy.
Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, excuse me, it's labeled 9B in my packet. My apologies. We show there a proposed revision to this year's fiscal year budget, 2016. We have $237.5 million that was authorized last year for this fiscal year. We are not asking for an increase or deviation from that amount. However, when the when the board approved the budget last year, they also approved certain categories, and we need to reshuffle some money within those categories, mainly to pay for the $45 million local share payment to the Corps that, as Mike mentioned, is going to be coming up, and we'll get a few days' notice from them. My last conversation with Terry Williams was that 45 million was the right figure, but they'll give us official notice here, and we expect it to come anytime. So we vetted this proposed reauthorization of the 2016 budget through Finance Committee yesterday, and it was approved. So I would ask that the board here approve that official, again, reshuffling of 2016 budget.
Okay, so you have the grid there of the 8B, and you'll see the adjustments that then would provide us the dollars for the Corps. I'd entertain
So
any
moved.
motion. We have a motion to approve.
Second?
Second. Any questions? Not, we'll take the roll.
Mr. Vanya.
Yes.
Mrs. Sherling. Yes. Mr. Pollock.
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn. Mr. Grinberg.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Whalen.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Otto.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yes.
Mr. Thorsted. Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Okay. Voucher approval. Or, go ahead, Mike.
We have,
Yep.
It's on your screen, and
C.
it's slightly different than what's in your packet.
D.
We removed some bills. The total is $1,350,395.14.
Move to approve.
second.
Motion and a second. Questions? Not, we'll take the roll.
Mr. Vanya.
Yes?
Mrs. Sherling. Mr. Pollock.
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn. Mr. Grinberg.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Whalen.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Ms. Otto.
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson.
Yeah.
Mr. Thorsted. Mr. Olson.
This part. Yeah.
Okay?
not off much, but-
Yep. Yep, we're done. That was that. Anything else, Commissioner Grinberg?
No.
Okay.
I think Randy covered it on the front end with the
Yeah.
overall budget and the additional work we're going to do.
Yeah, the budget sheet that Randy had alluded to, and we had discussion yesterday in the Finance Committee about whether those are the right headings or the fine detail that we want, and those will be worked on. And you'll probably see something a little bit different for the future. Other business. There was no Land Management Committee meeting, so we don't have an update there. If there is no other business, next meeting is September 22nd. Go ahead, Mayor.
Just did we do 8D? I'm confused. The E's, the 9s, and C's, but we had a voucher approval for 8D. Did we do that?
Yep, we just did that. We just did that.
Yeah, the mayor noted it as well. There's mismatch on numbers and coding
Yeah.
from agendas have been floating
But Mike-
around, but
Mike-
we covered
yeah,
it.
it was the one that Mike gave us that we
There's
approved.
some-
Yep, yep.
It's being nice, not whining about it.
If there's nothing else to come before us,
And maybe just a point of order on that,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. Some of the discussion we had yesterday after the Finance Committee, and we're going to reach out and visit with the folks that have been largely responsible for this and sharing the reports, but, what the Finance Committee would like to get to is a point where there's a cutoff date, kind of the golden rule where submissions on payment reimbursement are made, and that eliminates additional amendments coming in after a agenda goes out. So there's clear, hard, fast dates and rules. So if you miss a deadline for a payment, it goes into the next month. We're going to work on that, refining that. And I think that's as well as even the agendas that go out. There's an agenda and a board packet that goes out, and then the next day there's more information that comes out, and it gets very confusing to try and manage what's the difference between the two.
I agree.
So that's from the, so
yeah.
we're going to work on that for sure in the Finance Committee, Mr. Chairman. As chair of the authority, you can decide to do what you want with our agendas, but
No, good point, Commissioner, and I think we are in that process of refining as we get closer and closer to the day when construction would start. It's going to be nice to have this a little more detailed and working a little smoother, so we appreciate the work on that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
any thoughts or progress on attaining an executive director?
I don't know who would want to answer that. My understanding is that we are not, I think that where it was, there was a committee that was going to work on a job description, but that we were not actively pursuing that at this time.
Okay. Well, just so that we're all aware of how to go forward on this, we should probably set a target date of when we want to have an individual such as that employed, and, you know, and then we can work backwards. When would you think it's appropriate that we have someone in that position?
I guess my thoughts, only my thoughts, would be that we need to get to a point where we are assured that when we put this out for an advertising for an executive director, that we are at a point where it is absolutely moving forward, and that's what we're looking for. And we have a couple of things coming up here, whether it's litigation issues, whether it's sales tax issues and things like that. My guess is that probably somewhere after the first of the year.
Okay. Would it be appropriate for us to put a date on a calendar and then we work towards that, or we extend the date if it doesn't seem like that would be the case? Like maybe that date would be, our goal is to have someone employed by April 1st, but maybe that's not realistic. Maybe it's more like June 1st, but let's put a date down so that we're not scrambling at the last minute to figure it out.
And I'd certainly take comments from anyone else. Or John, do you have?
Sure. I'm going to jump in here, and this is, we've been working through a description of what the responsibilities of the executive director would want to be. I would note there are a few milestone events in your project that are really going to guide what type of executive director you're going to want at what time. Once you close on the P3 transaction, the executive director that you would be looking for has a much different skill set than prior to the close on the P3 contract. And so we're trying to develop the co-executive directors, along with some of the consultants, are trying to come up with the appropriate description for what that executive director position would look like if you chose to move forward with an executive director prior to the close on the P3 contract and post-close on the P3 contract. Just keep in mind the skill set is different, because once you've closed on the P3 contract, you're really going to need somebody who's responsible for execution, to implement the P3 contract, to get the project complete, to oversee construction, whereas prior to the P3 contract being entered into, you really need somebody who brings a skill set to the table of negotiation, of putting the deal together, and we want to make sure that you're getting the best value for the project as a whole. And I think that the goal was to bring a recommendation to the board, as I'd indicated at the October meeting, regarding how we would move forward with respect to governance and whether or not what the executive director position should look like. And so we are aware of it, we are working on it, and I just wanted to highlight there are two separate distinct events that occur in this project in which you're going to need people with vastly different skill sets. And I want to make sure that for a project, you're not overpaying for an executive director who brings a certain skill set that you will no longer need after you close the P3 transaction. So,
And when do we think the P3 transaction will close?
we are estimating that the P3 transaction would close either late 2017 or first quarter of 2018, and that would be a simultaneous financial and commercial close.
All right, thank you. Well, we have a plan, I just wasn't aware what it was, so I appreciate that information.
So we'll hear that in October? Okay, thanks, John. Anything else?
to adjourn.
We have a second? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.